Hey everyone, I am here hiding in my bedroom today because I have not been able to find a quiet place in the house. Every time I try to record, I get interrupted by someone or something. So hopefully I don't get interrupted here. But I wanted to talk about digital citizenship today. I think that in this day and age and right now in today's current situation, this topic is more important than ever. Unfortunately, I have not even been back in the classroom since last March. March 13th was our day that we were sent home, and I have not been back in my classroom since. I mean, I went a few times to go grab a few things, but I have been teaching from home since March, and that means that all my kids are at home as well. So they are on their devices all day, whether it is their Chromebook that the school provided them or their phone. These kids are on their devices. They are on the internet. They are getting into things, some things that they should probably not even get into. So, digital citizenship is such a huge topic right now and is something that is really important for us to realize why we should be teaching digital citizenship in our classrooms and how to create positive digital citizens. All right, so I'm actually going to show you a infographic that I made already about digital citizenship. So let me flip my screen over to here. There are so many reasons why we should be teaching our students to be good digital citizens. I mean, especially right now, I know a lot of people are, or a lot of teachers are like, I don't have time to incorporate anything else in my lessons. I am already overwhelmed with all of the new technologies that I need to learn. I don't have time to learn how to teach my students to be digital citizens. But really, this is such a huge, important aspect for our students to be. Our students are going to be using technology for the rest of their lives. They're going to need to know how to be good digital citizens. We really need to teach them information literacy. So teaching students how to find reliable sources. I mean, how many times now are you on Facebook or some other social media site and you see a post about something and it's probably political and you're wondering, is this actually real? Can I believe this? Or maybe you are convinced by that post that it is real. But how do you know? How do you understand how to figure out if something is actually real? Another thing is prevent cyberbullying. Students are on social media, they are hiding behind screens, and sometimes they're being rude to others or mean to others. Students need to understand that what they do behind the screen of their computer will affect them in real life. It's got to have consequences, and sometimes they have to learn from that the hard way. But students need to understand that just because they're behind a screen or they're using an anonymous account or pretending to be someone else, the chances that they're going to get caught doing these actions is pretty high. Digital health. I have students who are on their computers all day, even after we're on classes, because they are on their computers playing games or they're on their devices playing games. That way of living is not healthy. Students should be taking some time to go exercise and take a break from their computer. I know my eyes myself, my eyes hurt at the end of the day and I have a headache from staring at my computer for so long. So teaching our students how to take those breaks and realize when to take those breaks is really important. Digital responsibility. Teaching students that there is an appropriate use and an inappropriate use with being online. They need to understand that students are minors, especially my students. They're in fifth grade. They're young. They don't know. Sometimes they think that they can do things or get away with things when they really shouldn't be doing that. And my last really big important piece here is online safety. Students need to know how to protect themselves and their identities. I feel like this is something that even adults need to learn. I had my grandmom the other day. She had received a text about calling this number back with this confirmation code, and she was like, oh, I need to do this. I need to go get this account unlocked because it was something with her bank. And I'm like, I would check that first. Why don't you call your bank and see if they actually reached out to you for this? Because that doesn't look too safe to me. So teaching students not to make themselves vulnerable online. In our classrooms, we can be helping our students become digital citizens. From the very beginning of the year, when a student steps into your room and you start to set those expectations, include digital expectations in there. Set those expectations early on and include them all throughout your teaching. Set up some digital citizenship principles. Principles are standards that you have for your students online. They should understand what is allowed and what's not allowed when accessing different sites online. Set those standards for your students. They need to know the boundaries, they need to know those guidelines. Integrate digital citizen principles into your teaching as you are teaching. Every time I introduce my students to a new site or we are doing something different, I always draw those principles back to them. I make them think, okay, what are we doing here? What are my boundaries? What is taking this too far? What is expected of me? And remind your students of those principles whenever you need to. Revisit them when needed. I had an instance where, so we're multiplying fractions in class, and yes, you can use a calculator for them. But is that really the best way to learn how to multiply fractions? I will let my students use calculators towards the end of our chapter so that they can use it to check their work and make sure they're doing it correctly, because they'll always have access to a calculator in real life, but they still need to understand that foundation and that core concept of how to actually multiply them. So unfortunately, at the beginning of this chapter, I had an instance where a student was using a calculator and they were solving problems that we haven't even learned how to solve yet. And I was like, how in the world are you doing this? And they were doing them so quickly. I was like, there is no way you are solving these on your own. You're solving them faster than I can even solve them. And the student did admit to me that they were using a calculator, but I couldn't tell right away because I am not in the classroom with them. They can do whatever they want on their screen since they're hiding behind their screen pretty much. But I had a talk with that student and we talked about just being honest and how using the calculator really isn't going to help them at all. It makes them get a good grade, but did they really learn it? No. And that's what I'm worried about. I'm not worried about them getting good grades. Of course, they want good grades, but I'm worried about the students actually learning that skill or that material. So we had a talk about that, and then we brought it to the whole class, and we talked about that. And the students, they understood. I think I've made it so that they are comfortable talking to me about that kind of things. So I hope that in the future we won't have any kinds of instances like that. But technology is not going away. We need to start including these principles in our classes from the day that the students walk into our classroom in the beginning of the year, and keeping those principles set all throughout the year, especially now that probably most students or most districts or most schools are one-to-one with devices. Students really need to realize how important this is. They need to know that, okay, if I'm online, I am going to be vulnerable. If I'm online, I can have access to so many things that can help me learn, but so many things that can be harmful as well. Besides my frame there. But as a teacher, there are so many different resources for teaching digital citizenship lessons. I use the Common Sense Education lessons all the time. They are step by step. There are so many different materials available. They're easy, they're already made. It requires no effort and no prep from me. There are videos, there are questions that you follow up with them, there are activities. One of the things I really like to do in the beginning of the year is have my students make a digital, let's say, footprint. So it shows what they are leaving a footprint in. It shows the students that, okay, if I'm on this site and I leave it, my footprint is still there. What I did stays no matter what. And we talked about an example in the beginning of the year. So personally, I had, well, not myself, but my brother had an instance where something happened and one of his friends admitted it on Snapchat. And everyone thinks, okay, Snapchat, it disappears, it goes away. You don't have access to it again. Unfortunately, that is not the case. In this instance, the cops were involved, and the cops actually were able to go back into Snapchat and see the Snapchat that was sent. So this other person had actually gotten caught for what they did because they admitted it on Snapchat, because they didn't realize that it wouldn't go away. They thought it would go away. But anyway, Edutopia also has a lot of great resources. There are lesson plans on there. and a lot of things to with helping students learn to use technology. Brain Pop as well. This one's a little more geared towards younger students, but they have lessons and they list the different standards for teaching students to be digital citizens. So it's kind of helpful just to see that guide there. And in my infographic, I also have some videos just linking and showing what it actually is to be a digital citizen. All right, I know I went over a lot there, but my big overall point here is just teach your students to be good digital citizens. This is a skill that they're going to use for the rest of their life because technology is not going away. Your students need this. So I hope you at least took away a few things from here. If anything, just realize that teaching students to be digital citizens is something that they need. It's something that will make them not only a good digital citizen, but a good citizen in the world as well.